Hey everybody, it's Kevin Dewalt of Prolego. Apologize for the voice. I'm fighting yet another cold, so I'm going to do my best to shoulder through this one. I try to stay abreast of the major research breakthroughs that are going to influence an AI strategy, particularly around products or enterprises. And although there are dozens of machine learning papers published today, a few of them have the real kind of impact that I'm looking for. And one that does is called QLoRA, Efficient Fine-Tuning of Quantized LLMs. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this research breakthrough and why it's critical for your AI strategy. As I've mentioned before, almost every enterprise is going to start looking for alternatives for large language models besides the cloud-hosted deployments by the big cloud providers, like Google's Bard or Microsoft/OpenAI deployment of GPT-4. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Currently, in their current implementations, these hosted models, they're slow, they are expensive, there are security issues you have to deal with in terms of sending information outside your environment, and they also throttle your usage. Now, these, of course, they're going to improve in these, of course, over the next year, but your demand is going to keep going up because you're going to want so many different ways to deploy these models, and you're going to want alternatives you can run, at least inside your enterprise, for different use cases. Unfortunately, a lot of people who are observing this space assume that only the corporate giants and the major tech companies are going to be the ones that can afford to build these technologies. And I'd say 90% of what I read about this space makes the same mistake. And with the exception of the elite Google researcher who had an internal blog post that said, I think the title was something to the effect of, "We have no moat around AI, neither does OpenAI." And I actually share that researcher's opinion. And QLoRA is one of these examples of why I share that opinion. So most people look at the capital investment in data and computational time that took to create Bard and GPT-4 and realize, like, oh my gosh, this takes so much money and so much computational power to build one of these language models. Only the corporate giants with this amount of resources will be able to do this. And QLoRA shows an example of why that's not necessarily the case. The researchers came up with some clever techniques for minimizing the amount of GPU, graphical processing unit, the NVIDIA cards basically, the GPU memory that are used to fine-tune one of these models. And that effectively, that means just customizing you for them for your environment. Previously, to be able to take an existing large language model and tune it so that it works well on your specific domain or task, you needed GPUs that had close to 500 gigabytes of memory, and that gets really expensive, and it takes a very long time to train. Well, these researchers came up with some clever techniques to shrink that down to like I think it's 48 gigabytes of GPU memory, which means you can do it for practically nothing. So for all practical purposes, if you follow their techniques, your ability to fine-tune a large language model on your particular company and products and domain is practically free. The biggest cost is going to be the labor and the internal resources you need to build and set it up and deploy it. So the researchers then showed some benchmarks of their approach versus like common models like Bard, GPT-3, 5, and GPT-4. And really, based on these benchmarks, only GPT-4 consistently outperform what they're able to achieve with this new technique, which is really impressive. I also went in and found some playgrounds where they deployed their models, and I tried to compare it to GPT-4's performance, and honestly, I really couldn't see much of a difference. I mean, it was really splitting hairs. If you put them side by side, I really couldn't tell you which one was better or worse. It's incredibly subjective. So this is incredibly exciting because it means that suddenly the open source community and every small company out there can create powerful models with a fraction of the cost. However, before you get too excited, we are not quite there yet. The researchers base this performance on the Llama language models, and those are the ones that Facebook released Meta, I guess, released a couple of months ago for the researchers and academic communities. They're not yet licensed for commercial use, so you can't take these models and deploy them inside your enterprise. However, we just need to either have someone like Facebook build models they will release for commercial purposes, which is certainly going to happen, or the research community just needs to get, and the open source community has to get good enough to start building these incrementally using some of the other techniques that are being published. So regardless, it's an exciting future, and you're going to have lots of other options besides Bard and GPT-4 in the near future for deploying models inside your enterprise. Have a great day.